What's the creepiest town in the USA in your opinion? Elgin, Kansas. The motto of the town is the city that can't be killed. A person told me a story about the time they stopped there on a cross-country motorcycle trip. When they parked, they could see people peeking round the corners of buildings. Shortly after, a woman in an old dirty wedding dress came around a building pushing an old Victorian baby stroller. There wasn't a baby in the stroller, it was a toy baby. There are trees growing out of buildings. The main street is a super wide road, so that they could herd cattle through the town back in the way back. It's a creepy place. Ontonagon, Michigan. Middle of nowhere up. Closest civilization was an hour away. Nobody was ever around, except kids playing at the school after hours, since the only thing there was a gas station and a few little stores. Eerily quiet, except the church bells would go off twice a day, once at 5 and once at 6. Pretty sure their town income came from people visiting the nearby state park. They tried to dredge the harbor recently, but it didn't work, so all the supplies sunk with it. Bardstown, KY. If there was a US remake of Hot Fuzz, which, by the way, I'm not suggesting should occur, it would be set in Bardstown. Of unsolved murders, including a cop driving home from work, which also involves rumors of department shit going on, and had a young teen gang which used to put really bad mumble rap music on YouTube. Charleston, SC. While it is a beautiful city, it has a history for being a huge slave port city, and you can feel that there has been a great amount of human anguish and pain there. The history also links to pirates and the Civil War. Although Savannah is touted to be haven of ghosts in the South, Charleston is a place where you can feel the toll on the city all the same. Any sundown town, that were most prevalent before the mid-20th century, which practiced a form of racial segregation by excluding non-whites via some combination of discriminatory local laws, intimidation, or violence. As a minority, Kingmaners. I used to live near there. Fucking racist a sundown town. That Sacha Baron Cohen did a piece there for his show Who is America. He fucked with them in a fake town hall meeting where he was proposing to build a mosque in town. It was not received well, and that town of racist fucking lunatics showed their true colors. Brigham City, Utah has to be in the running. It had a huge Indian school. Now the land in basically empty unused blocks. In other Indian schools, bodies have been found in the grounds. I believe they leave the lots unused because they know there are bodies buried under the school and don't want to face consequences for selling unmarked burial grounds. It's barely a town anymore, but definitely Mineral Springs, Missouri. It was once a bustling town with a famous hot spring, but it dried up. Now various people live in very old houses with no electricity. No one knows their names, but they send one person into town a month for groceries. If you're there very long at all, they will shoot at you. Kitcher, Oklahoma. Abandoned lead mining town that produced most of the lead for the world wars. The town is riddled with sinkholes from poor mining practices and is the largest EPA Superfund cleanup site. It's now abandoned from a combination of people dying of lead poisoning, orange sulfuric acid waters, and a large tornado a few years ago. The skeletal remains of what used to be the Catskills resort area in upstate NY. Many of the towns from Monticello and Liberty up through the outskirts of Albany. Borscht Belt. In other words, I was last there 13 years ago. There were scattered Chinese buffets, gas stations, and much else. Maybe the odd Walmart. There may be creepier towns, but I've traveled the US a lot, and the creepiest one I've personally been to was Gallup. NN. Some very unsettling lurkers around town. Man at the gas station seemed possessed. The whole place just had a horrendous vibe, and we got out quickly and went on our way. Couldn't have paid us to spend the night. Peru, Indiana. Maybe more soul-crushingly depressing than creepy, but it was a little unsettling driving through it to see maybe one open business for every 10 boarded up. Dilapidated houses and buildings. How do they stay open? Who lives here? Where are the people? Any people? These are questions I never got an answer to. Randsburg, California is a mostly abandoned mining town in central California. There's some people who still live there, but it's kept to original buildings for the sake of no one caring to update, not the historic value. They're all dilapidated horror movie-looking buildings. Centralia, Pennsylvania. There is an underground mine fire through coal veins that's constantly spreading and emitting noxious fumes. On a road trip once, we wanted to see it, so ran around and explored. They paid everyone to move away, so it's a ghost town with only the cemetery and streets remaining. I got super weird vibes in Weston, WV. There's an abandoned mental hospital in the city, and locals told me stories about allegedly haunted churches in the area too. I personally always felt like I was being watching, and my cell phone did weird stuff that week too. Kitcher. Okay. It's an EPA Superfund site that was being cleaned up and bought out. The town was dying literally and figuratively. Then a tornado came through and took care of enough that whoever had remained left. Now it's a ghost town. Don't know its name, but it was around in our past Vegas. I was working walk tour and we stopped for gas at like 3 a.m. This place had giant bugs that swarmed you and left silver dollar-size welts on your skin. Fuck that city. Got to say it. My wife and I were vacationing in Bar Harbor, Maine, and decided to drive to the easternmost point in the US. So we made it Lubeck, Maine. It was kind of foggy and looked totally deserted. I get Stephen King novels now. When I was a toddler, my mum and aunt got lost in Centralia trying to take me to Nobles. When I got older, we used to go to Centralia quite often. I have pictures of me with giant plumes of smoke behind me wearing melted sandals. Medicine Bar, WY. I only stayed in the hotel for a night, but it was super creepy. Lights off in the front and hasn't been renovated since the early 1900s, with a bunch of creepy Victorian-era paintings and mass shit everywhere. One of the top 5 is Dresden, TN. Creepy fucking backwoods town. A few hundred people. More churches than houses if I remember right. And one primary gas station diner combo where I felt like the ham was made out of human. Nellie, Nebraska. Never actually been. But every single person I've met from there has been a trashy asshole. The fact that one small town can produce such a high number of redneck pieces of shit is a bit creepy. My vote is with Las Vegas. Lot of desperate and creepy people, and that is just the tourists. The flashing lights and constant sound failed to distract me from the dark underbelly that is right in your face. Honey Grove, TX. Burnout buildings on the downtown square. Perhaps 3 operating shops. A disused shopfront with butterfly murals. With pallet loads of ammunition visible through the doors. No thanks. South side of Chicago. Had to drive through there to get to some of our customers years ago. Hyde Park is a nice area next to the worst ghetto. Finally told the shop I would quit if they sent me there again. Powers, Oregon. Poor logging town. Confederate flags and an American flag and pole disproportionately large in the middle of town. Quiet, spooky, run down and empty besides old trucks rumbling along. I don't remember what it's called, but there's a town in Florida where all the carnies live during their off-season. I'm not sure it's creepy, but it is definitely bizarre to just stumble upon. Whittier, Alaska. Most of the town's residents live in a single apartment building. There's nothing else there. The town is accessible by water and a one-way tunnel through the mountain. Athens, Ohio is reputed to have one of the largest numbers of haunted places per capita, including an eerie, abandoned tuberculosis ward at the Ridges, formerly the Athens Lunatic Asylum. The peculiar atmosphere of Clinton Road in West Milford, New Jersey, reputedly haunted by strange creatures and ghostly hitchhikers, extends to the nearby town, enhancing its creepiness. Minden, Envy still rings their sundown bell every day. They rebranded it as a dinner bell. Blue Ridge, Carr, Cute town, but not so friendly locals. I think they missed the southern hospitality memo. The police stay away from a certain bar which I found unsettling. The empty streets and silent nights of Rhyolite, Nevada. A classic ghost town with decaying buildings and the general feeling of being watched make it incredibly creepy. Estes Park, Colorado. The inspiration for Stephen King's The Shining, hosts the Stanley Hotel, whose eerie reputation is bolstered by frequent paranormal reports. Barstow, California. It's the convergence of highways in the middle of nowhere. It's like an entire town of unhinged hitchhikers who got dumped there. Freaky shit. Most towns in East Texas, close to the LA border. They don't want you there, and they'll let you know it. I'm a white Texas native, and I don't even feel welcome. The historic old town of Savannah, Georgia is famed for its hauntings, with Spanish moss hanging from ancient oaks, giving it a beautiful yet ghostly appearance. Salton Sea. CA went to clean out a family member's house after they passed. Didn't see a single car on the road, or human, that whole weekend. Felt so creepy. Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, feels haunted by its Civil War history, with old stone buildings and battlefields that seem to whisper stories of the past. Marana, Arizona, that's for that Satan-worshipping chick and a group of followers that used to kidnap people, remove their spines and head from their body.